Well, good Wednesday evening, everyone. Welcome again to Bowling with the Fef, a platform for you to share your unique bowling story. It's all live on the YouTube channel where hopefully you're watching right now live with us. If not, if you're on replay, that's great too. Remember, if you have any comments or questions about our guest or any of the other past shows, either put them in the chat if you're on live, put them in the comments if you're watching on replay, and I will do my best to get you some answers if you're on replay, and if you're live, we will pose those those questions to our guest at the end of the program in a little segment we call the Foundation Frame. So again, thanks for joining us today. We're going to start things off with a little conversation about online coaching. I'm sure if you're familiar with the way bowling is these days, you find a lot of folks have offers up for online bowling coaching. It's streaming video calls, things like that. Bowling is big on that right now. In fact, two of our past guests, AJ Johnson and Verity Crawley, both offer their own online coaching services. And it's kind of becoming popular now, especially since not everybody is comfortable doing things in person because, of course, we're still in the pandemic. So our question for you is, what do you think of the rise of online coaching? Again, if you're watching us live, feel free to let us know in the chat. If you're watching on replay, shoot a question or your questions or answers into the comments, and I will be sure and see them either way. So we're going to move on to our beer frame, and I feel like a broken record when I say I'm excited for this guest because we've just had great guests this whole time, and today is no exception. Live on our show today, we have Pat Umphrey from Medina, Minnesota.
Yeah, buddy.
Pat, how you doing, bud?
Doing well. How are you doing?
Doing great. Glad that you came on. And he is not only friend of the show, but kind of the resident expert as far as online coaching is concerned. So let's talk about that. And I already know what your thoughts are on the rise of online coaching because that helps you more than it helps any of us. But although it's not bowling that you're dealing with, what should people who have never entered into an online coaching program, what should they expect and what should they look for?
I think they should look for a nice beard.
That's a great start.
Yeah, it is. So can you repeat the question? Are you asking in the context of if someone is pursuing an online bowling coach or an online fitness coach?
I tell you what, if you have different answers for each, why don't we go kind of one at a time?
Yeah, so I think that the first thing that I would look at would be client results. And this is kind of a hot topic issue, but a popular question that gets thrown around in the fitness industry is whether or not the physique of your coach matters. And so to use a comparison, it would be, does the on-lane success of your bowling coach matter? And I can understand arguments both ways, but I can also cite very, very good coaches who weren't necessarily elite on the lanes, but they're very, very good coaches. And I'd say the same holds true in the fitness industry in that I can name powerlifting coaches that are not terribly strong. I mean, they're strong for general population, but they're not like strong among elite powerlifters. I can name very good fat loss coaches who are not shredded. And so point being, I think the ability to get results in other people is not necessarily a function of how well someone competes in that sport or how well someone, I'll use the phrase practice what you preach. I think that it's a somewhat overrated thing. And I realize there will be disagreement on me saying that because it's a very hot issue, at least in the fitness industry.
Sure.
So,
yeah, I would think.
One example, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but you remember Don White, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying this. He was not a tremendous bowler. He was okay, he was decent, but he wasn't he's not out like winning titles, but he was a fantastic coach, like really, really good coach. And so I would use him as an example. And by the way, he's been really influential for me as a fitness professional too. And so just kind of the things that he would demonstrate while he was coaching, just the qualities that he had, I think now have paid off. Whereas back then, I think I was a little too arrogant and, not really alert and observant enough to appreciate some of those things. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you hit right to the heart of me on that one because I took lessons from him right before I moved out of town, and boy, he was tremendous.
Oh,
I
so good.
I was always kind of wishing that there was some way I could kind of carry that wisdom over, continue those lessons after I had
Yep.
left, but it just wasn't in the cards. But that's really cool that he's also influenced you in what you're doing right now.
Absolutely.
So you're saying, possibly the physique of the person. Could you flex for us?
You can flex in a sweater. You're not going to see much. Nice.
So, are there things like maybe curriculum or character of the coach that people should look at, or is it something where, maybe that's something that comes with some of the things that you said, or you're not looking for a friend necessarily, you're looking for someone who can get you results or work with you as a team to get results?
Yeah, I broke up a little bit there, but I think, were you asking about the character of the coach?
Yeah.
Was that the general question there?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that I think it depends, and I'm going to use that answer a lot because I think a lot of things have nuance, and we tend to make blanket statements without providing that nuance. So I think that my belief is that most of the time, I'd say like high percentage of the time, you do need to have a good client coach relationship. And so there does need to be some things that you click with and kind of matches up. But I also think there could be exceptions. And so you might have exceptions with like elite athletes that they don't give a crap if they like their coach or not. They're literally just going to do everything the coach says. And as long as the recommendations are good, they're going to get good results. And so I think that would be my answer. But yeah, for the stuff that I do, it matters tremendously. And so I get far better results when I feel like I've built a good relationship, and the opposite when I don't.
Sure. Do you feel like something like that takes time? For example, do you have anybody who maybe you were unsure that they were the right fit or you were the right fit for them in the beginning, but over time you were able to maybe surprise even yourself by improving that relationship?
Yes. Yes, and I've also experienced the opposite, where I thought things were very, very good, and they just took a rapid turn in a direction I did not see. And those are very educational experiences. And I don't always take something from it right away, but it's definitely humbling because it's something where you go, wait a second, I might have completely misread this the whole time. And so those aren't fun lessons to have, but they're valuable.
Sure. And look, if people make
Can you still hear me
mistakes-
okay, by the way? I'm still breaking up a bit, but I want to make sure.
No, you're great.
Okay, good.
You're loud and clear on this end, and
okay.
I was gonna say, mistakes
Sorry
are
to
great.
talk over you.
Yeah, that's all right. Mistakes are great if you never make them twice because you get to learn from them. And geez, I make all kinds of mistakes on this live stream, and hopefully, with each one we get better and better. And that's why I waited 17 episodes to get you on. So hopefully we could, get a little better quality thing going.
I was gonna say that's your mistake is having me on. Just kidding.
So let's talk bowling. We met when I was in middle school. And I can vividly remember, being at Golden Valley Lanes at Plymouth Middle School Bowling Club and, doing my bowling and staying after to help some of the disabled students, with their bowling. And every week you would be down on, maybe the first couple lanes. So was that when you started or was it before that?
That was very close to when I started. I started when I was 12 years old, but I was probably around 14 when I started really practicing a lot. So that's pretty close to when I really got into it.
Sure. Was there something that kind of resonated with you at that time when you said, okay, you started at 12, but there was something that kind of built it up in you a little bit? Was there a specific instance or something that influenced you greater than it had before?
Yes. Yeah, there was this childhood friend named Jeremy, and I used to compete with him at all sorts of things, and this was the first thing I was kind of good at. I wasn't good at first, but I got good at it, and so I received the positive feedback of improving at something, and it was probably the first thing that I believed I could actually be good at. And I think that experiencing the reward from that is what kind of hooked me into it. And it was just like that. And the combination of that and competing against my friend really drove me to practice and to get better at it.
Yeah. From the outside looking in, I always felt like you had a lot of natural talent. You were in great position at the line when you finished. You were able to put effortless turn on the bowling ball. I guess did you have some natural gifts that helped you along the way?
I doubt it. I sucked so bad when I first started. I think I had good instruction and good practice habits in the beginning. And
Okay.
so I think that's what primarily did it.
Yeah.
So I don't, and I think I'm moderately coordinated. Like I think my motor skills are probably at least average.
Yeah.
And so I don't think I was under average as far as talent, but I don't think that it was anything out of the ordinary.
Sure. Um, I remember you working a lot with Bob Burns, and we spoke a while
Yeah.
back, and you said that he was pretty influential with you early on. How did that relationship start,
Yeah.
and what did he do that was able that helped you get more out of your game than maybe you had before you met him?
Honestly, all kinds of instruction is what he did. Like I just had a lot of lessons with him. And after I think I was about 15, so after about a year and a half of hiring him for lessons, he eventually said that he's not going to charge me anymore and that I was going to kind of be his protege or whatever, and he would work with me basically whenever he was available. And so I took full advantage of that. And he was one of the Dick Ridker Academy coaches, and so is Don White. And so I kind of grew up learning the Ritker method, so to speak, which I think was largely beneficial. I think I would have benefited by getting more diversity from that, but I also think that it was huge as far as just the fundamentals.
Sure. Was there anything about Bob's coaching style that kind of meshed with what you were back then as a learner?
I don't know. I think that the biggest thing was that I was largely uh, easily influenced. I don't know if that's a good way to put it, but I thought that he could do no wrong, and I basically did everything that he instructed. And yeah, and I think, like I said, for the most part, that worked really well. I probably took it too far, but yeah, that's. I think that was the largest part to do with it. Is just that I was like, he had so much influence in my eyes that it was just like, this is my coach and he's the best, and I'm just going to listen to him and do everything that he says. So
Yeah, sure. Fair enough. There's really only so much you can do in bowling without a structured environment like junior leagues and tournaments and things like that. You were definitely all about both, but what was it like in those early days to start competing against people who may have been as good or better than you?
it was awesome, and I loved every bit of it. I thought the from junior leagues at Golden Valley when I first started out, like I remember there were a couple of kids that averaged like 180 to 190 back when I was averaging 160, and I looked up to them and thought they were awesome. And then from going on from there to the MJBA, which then turned into the MJBT. Like I still remember my first MJBA tournament. It was amazing, and I got my butt kicked, but it was great, and I had a blast. And I was hooked at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we had the opportunity, like really relatively few during that time, to join a competitive team at our high school. We
Yeah,
had
buddy.
an incredible team right out of the gate when we were freshmen, and you and Brent Prentice were a huge part of that. How did you and Brent meet? Was that at that time, or was it before we started high school?
We met before the high school team. I met him at Golden Valley Lanes. I started working there when I might have even started at 14 illegally. I don't remember exactly, but it was either 14 or 15 when I started working there. And he worked there at the time, and that's where I really got to know him. And then we also bowled together on this high school team, and I got to know him better, and he's a great dude.
Sure. I remember, seeing him on TV before we got into high school, and all of a sudden he was there. and I was almost starstruck to know that we'd be on the same team. Um, what did you think of him when you first met him and when you started on the team? Was he?
Thought he was awesome. Like,
Yeah,
that's pretty much it. Like, I thought he was a really, really good bowler and a funny dude. And yeah, he was a good friend. So,
yeah,
yep.
absolutely. You guys really kind of, led that team. I mean, we were, we were well balanced, deep. We had people like Dan Goldstein and Tinku Bhatt, Dave Fifield. It was just a really loaded team. And you and I were.
Oh my
there we
God,
are.
look at that. Oh man, that hair.
Thank goodness.
Oh Lord.
Thank goodness that I still have a copy of that yearbook because, man, that helped in this.
Do me a favor and don't show that ever again. I'm just kidding.
but there we are, and what was that like for you to kind of be thrust into this team that really could compete with the best in the area?
Honestly, the entirety of my high school bowling memories is resoundingly positive, and I just remember it being an absolute blast. Like, that was just fun. I think for me back then, it was so fun that it was more about just hanging out with my high school buddies and having fun than it was about the competitive aspect of it, even though we were good at it. That was just like, it was a blast.
Yeah, absolutely. At the same time, is when, we're starting to get into MJBA, which became MJBT.
Yeah.
And, things started working out really well for you. What was it that, I guess, got you from the, I got my butt kicked right away in MJBA to starting to compete and eventually win multiple titles in MJBT?
I think it's a combination of things, and I'm willing to be wrong about some of these because I'm just trying to be objective. I think part of it is just me putting in more and more work and getting better at the game. I also, in fairness, think that the competitive environment was tougher when I was coming into the sport than when I was leaving it. I don't mean leaving the sport. I mean leaving juniors. I need to clarify that.
Sure.
I just think that that's a large portion of why I had as much success as I did. And I think that had I been the same bowler that I was near the end of juniors, had I been that earlier on, I don't know that I would have been as competitive. So,
sure.
And that's just me being objective about it.
Yeah. We had a unique opportunity in that we were going to these MJBT tournaments that were run by Chris Gamick and then competing in high school where he was our coach.
Yeah.
What do you remember about him and kind of getting to know him, as we're competing?
He was a good dude. I miss him a lot. And his dad is hilarious too. Want to hear a funny story about his dad that's not vulgar? It's not terribly vulgar.
Yes.
I bowled
funny stories.
I already told you the vulgar one that I probably shouldn't say on here. I was bowling with his dad, Al Gamick, and Al is he's a smart ass. And I'm 15 at the time, and we're at Texatonka Lanes, and he's got those little styrofoam cups of coffee that they give to the seniors at every bowling alley. There's little shot glasses.
Yeah.
And he's standing next to me, and he's got his little pierced ear and his big thick glasses, and he takes a sip of his coffee, and he gets this sour look on his face, and then he just looks at me and he goes, "You ever drink weasel piss?"
No.
That was it. So that's Chris's dad. Yeah, Chris is a good dude. I think that he did a lot of great things for Minnesota, specifically for the juniors, in just how he took the MJBA, which I don't think was in a very good spot when he took it over. Mm-hmm. And he definitely did a better job running it and just kind of built that thing up. And always had a very good relationship with him, both as him being the high school coach and just kind of being a friend.
Yeah. He, and I'll say, I don't know if I'm coming from a place of objectivity with this, but he could be a little gruff from time to time.
Oh, yeah.
In both venues, both as a coach and running that tournament. Do you think that was a good thing?
I do, but I also I don't recall him ever being blunt to the point of it being, malicious or, to the point where it's offensive to anyone. I just thought that sometimes he just told it like it was. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah. I always thought sometimes I needed to hear it like it was,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, you know, you ended up with more than $3,600 in scholarship earnings at MJBT, which is 64th all time. You know, you're a constant threat to win every month as you get going in this thing. So, how did it feel to be at that level of really being able to compete with anybody in juniors in the state at that time?
At the time, I think it felt really good. I don't know that it was a good thing for my ego, and I don't know that I was mature enough to handle that. I think I could have developed better had I not been as full of myself at the time, I think. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Some degree of complacency set in, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After that first year in high school, our team got younger.
Yeah.
Brent and Dave and Tinku and Dan were all seniors, and that kind of put the onus on people like us to start leading things. What do you remember about those last 3 years, and kind of taking over in that role that maybe Brent had or Dan had before?
I don't remember a lot of it, but I think we had didn't we bring on Chris Temp and Carl Mueller?
Yep. And Sean Herstein?
Yeah. And Herstein, yeah. How could I forget about him? He's great. I bet his beard's doing really well right now. I think I remember seeing a picture of it and I was like, that's a beard. I remember driving to those events with Chris Temp and him like just kind of losing his temper at red lights and stuff and screaming at cars and just like, this is the best ever. Yeah.
Yeah. And listening to the Jerky Boys and
Yeah.
and whatever hip hop album was big at the time.
Yep. Yeah. That was good stuff. Who else did we have on the team? Me, you, Chris, Carl, Sean.
So we had Sarah Forsetzer Key. We had Jamie Segla Hunt.
Yep.
Leah Van Dyne. And let's see, Debbie Codgelo.
All of this is coming back. That's awesome.
A really, really good crew. I mean, both in that first year and in the years to follow. I mean, if there's anything we can say about those teams, it's that, boy, we got along famously.
Yeah. Yep.
So, what was I going to say? Oh, MJBT, through Chris's leadership grew and evolved too. Yeah. So tell me what you thought of that, seeing it kind of come from relatively meager beginnings to, expanding to become one of really the best junior tournaments and tournament tours in the country.
I think it's awesome. Like, I have nothing but good things to say about it. I think it's tremendous. I know that's a boring answer because I'm just like, yeah, it's cool. Not much of an interview here, but like,
no, that's okay. Did you ever end up following along with, what was going on in MJBT after you went into adults?
Very, very little.
Yeah.
So I would occasionally go and watch one when it was local, but that's about it.
Sure.
That was at the time when I think Jeremy Steffen was clobbering everyone over the head.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So you go into, adult bowling. And of course, you're Minnesota, born and raised, Twin Cities area. There's a great bowling scene there, lots of competition. What was it like to make that transition from juniors into adults?
It was something I was very much looking forward to. It was very exciting at first. I very much lost a lot in terms of like realizing how good these guys are. I think was a very good experience, good wake-up call for me that I need to work harder. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I think when I came out, it was when pretty much Carl Fitek was basically completely dominant. And so, it was fun. It was just like, even doing something like bowling an adult league it made league exciting again. Like, hey, I'm bowling with the adults now. And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then the CBA was the thing that I looked forward to the most.
Sure.
And then whatever occasional like one-off tournaments that would be hosted locally, I would always try to go to those. And yeah, that was pretty much it.
Did you do CBAs right out of the gate when you turned adult?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Right away.
Was that another experience kind of like MJBT had been where you started slow and had to work your way up?
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. Started very slow. So yeah, it was a very good experience, very humbling one. And, I still like, that's still something that I miss. Like then when I think about bowling, I really think about CBA bowling, like bowling in those tournaments and other tournaments. But like, I don't miss league bowling as much. I miss getting out there and competing. So
Sure. I remember, kind of that camaraderie about MJBT where, every month you're competing against the same people and
yeah,
you kind of, grow friendships like that. I'm assuming that CBA has got to be similar, right?
I thought it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just slightly different when there's money on the line and some people are a little more competitive, I
Yeah.
think. And so, yeah. But overall, I think it's similar.
Were there any, particular guys, any particular bowlers that maybe you gravitated toward once you made that leap into CBA?
Yeah, there were a few. I really like Dave Hoppenrath. I don't want to like name names because if I leave someone out, it's like, but Hoppo was always someone I looked up to. I was just really level headed and I was the opposite. Like I was a complete hothead. And so he was just calm and collected and super smart dude too. And so, yeah, I used to strike up conversations with him fairly often, pick his brain about stuff.
Yeah. You've said a couple times you were kind of hot-headed, but
Yeah.
what I remember of you is you were really intense, really focused.
Mhm.
More so than maybe I was or some of the others. Where does that come from?
I think it comes from the desire to win.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was all I really cared about at the time.
Yeah.
Wish I were better at it at the time, but that's all I wanted to do. So
Yeah. Don't we all though, It's
we all do, but I think to varying degrees. So
yeah. Eventually, in you get into college, and I remember in high school you were big into basketball.
yeah,
And at some point in college, you hurt yourself
Yeah.
playing basketball to the
Yep.
point where you really had to put that and bowling to the side
Yeah.
to recover.
yep.
And
Broke
that's
my
when,
leg.
yeah, that's when you started learning magic of all things. I couldn't believe it when you told me you were learning magic. Why was that? Why magic?
Something I'd always been interested in, and the girl I was dating at the time bought me a book on card tricks, and she knew I couldn't bowl. I had a walking cast at the time, and so I just sat down and started learning card magic. And then as I was able to walk on my walking cast, as my injury started to heal, I started bowling right-handed because it was my right leg that was broken. So I could bowl right-handed because I slide on my left foot. So I did that for about 3 months or so.
Yeah.
Had fun with that.
I remember at Golden Valley Lanes, there was a ball on the
Dennis.
rack that
Dennis.
said Dennis on it. and you'd take that thing right-handed and just bend it and strike after strike. It was amazing.
Yeah, I couldn't repeat shots for nothing, but I was athletic enough that I could manage to get to the line and hammer on it and throw it to the dirt. Like as long as you can get in and wing it, like it was enough on that shot. So
Yeah.
yeah. Dennis.
Of course, Dennis was a house ball, and we had started out at a time when the highest performing bowling balls were urethane.
Yep.
And eventually you got into reactive equipment, and there's changes that you have to make when you're kind of graduating from urethane
Absolutely.
to reactive.
Yeah.
Do you remember what that was like for you and
I do.
how you were able to to compensate?
I was able to compensate unsuccessfully would be the way that I would phrase that, but being objective about it, I think that and things could have changed now. Like I've been out of the environment for I don't know how many years since I quit. It's had to be 8 or 9 years, I'm guessing. But anyway, I recall at that time with urethane, because I would go around the side of the ball a lot. I had a lot of axis rotation. And so that generally, once the ball does hit friction, it tends to it would take a right turn for me. I'm left-handed. And so with urethane, that tends to produce better back end reaction. You get better carry, and it's, you tend to score better with that, which is why, by the way, I've had some success in adults with urethane and plastic. Like I had an 800 with a blue dot, and I had a couple of tournaments that I led with urethane back when people were throwing reactive, but it's because it matched up better to my release. So kind of like a bootleg Ryan Simonelli or something. Like I watch him do that. Nowhere near to his skill level, obviously, but like similar kind of thing where he tends to get away with that. And so,
Yeah.
But yeah, and so I think that I largely had more problems adapting to it because I just get such a violent back end reaction. And I just was never able to. I mean, in some environments, I was able to tame that down enough, but like not enough that not as much as I should have, I should say. Obviously, easier in hindsight to look back and say, here's what I did wrong, but that's my assessment of it.
I always thought, seeing these modern guys throwing urethane when the conditions warrant, I think of you immediately, and I thought, man, that guy's kind of a pioneer because nobody else was really doing that, and now the guys at the highest level are doing that.
Tell you what, when I watch YouTube videos, I still watch bowling, and anytime I see someone throwing urethane, I'm like, God, I want to bowl. Like, I could do this. And by the way, I don't mean I could do this against them. Like, their physical talent is out of this world. But yeah. I just see the urethane, and I go, oh, my God, I got to get out there. So,
it's incredible. And like I said, it always kind of makes me think of what you were doing back then. So you also did some drilling of bowling balls. You operated the pro shop at Village North for a while, and then out of your home. What got you into that, and what was that like for you?
I don't remember what started it. Dave Rasmus, he originally contacted me and asked me if that's something I'd be interested in, and that's really where it started. I don't recall exactly like what prompted that conversation, but that's where it all started. And he taught me how to drill balls and got me set up with everything at Village North. And so it was a good experience.
Yeah. Is that something that's hard to learn? I mean, people like me who just, find their local pro shop operator and get the ball drilled, and it feels the same as everything else, and you kind of go on your way and take it for granted. But I would think that would take some time to learn.
So when I say no, that's not meant to I'm sure there's a huge, huge difference between really skilled ball drillers that, understand ball reaction and know exactly how to match up a layout to someone. So I'm not trying to trivialize that. I want to be clear on that.
Sure.
I just meant like the actual practice of doing the basic things. It's not terribly difficult. It's not something you're going to do in a week, but I mean, this was something where like I would be in Dave's pro shop for 6 months to a year with him while he's helping customers, and he's taking me through, because I didn't have a job at the time. So it was a lot of training. So, yeah. Hopefully I didn't come across as trivializing that, because I've,
No.
I'm not at all trying to say that it's like some easy thing. It's just that it's not, I can think of things that are probably require more in-depth, training and such.
Yeah. And I would think that kind of, works out differently for different guys or women, kind of getting into that and kind of mastering it too.
Yeah. And that's a good point, because like, again, I don't think I was a master at it. And so for me to say it wasn't that hard, like people could say, well, it's because you sucked at it. And like, oh, okay, that could be why I didn't think it was that hard. Right.
At the same time, you're not only, bowling and doing the pro shop thing, but eventually somewhere along the line, you start doing magic professionally.
Yeah. What happened was, after the pro shop, I started working at a magic shop for a while, and I did that for probably 3 years or so. And that did a lot for me as far as magic goes, because what I was supposed to be doing when customers came in, I was supposed to sell them the products that we had at the magic shop. They're basically really basic, like entry level magic tricks that are prop based, where the prop does most of the work for you. And it was just ultra high prices for how bad the products were. But I didn't do that. I just did my own material. Like, I'd be like, here, let me show you a card trick. And I just do my own stuff, which was not, ethical of me to do that, because that's not what I'm being paid to do, but I did it anyway. And I got a lot of performing experience doing that. And shortly after that, I got a job at a regular, like a regular corporate job. Started with a temp agency and then got hired full time. And I worked there for exactly 5 years. And I hated it, and I sucked at it. And I decided that I didn't want to do it. And the day I resigned, so I'll back up a step so this story makes a little more sense.
Sure.
When I worked at the magic shop, I was doing magic shows part-time. Like people would hire me to just do, strolling gigs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
As I worked for this company, I did less and less magic because I just didn't have time, and I stopped practicing and had less and less interest in it. And my life just became this ball of anxiety where I hated my job, and I was pretty miserable outside of my job because I hated it so badly, but the pay was really good. And it was the situation where it's like, well, I'm being paid very well to be miserable. And the day I resigned, I got a phone call from someone who saw me do magic at a party in college. And I hadn't talked to this guy in years. And he said, "Hey, I don't know if you even remember me. I'm friends with your friend, Matt. He was my best friend in college. And you did magic at this party. And can I hire you to perform at my wedding?" And so it was kind of cool because I didn't know what I was going to do for a career when I resigned. I just knew that I'm not doing this because I hate it. And I hadn't done a gig in several years. And to just randomly get a call the same day I quit my job, it was like, well, this is interesting. And so I talked to now my wife, girlfriend at the time, or fiance, one of the two. Yeah. Hope she doesn't watch this. And and I said, "What if I try to make a living doing this?" And she said, "Well, we don't have any kids. We don't have any debt. Now's your chance. So if you're going to do something like this, now's a good time to try." And so I tried and I succeeded. And so I have, up until COVID anyway, I've been performing about 3 times a week. And so, making a living doing magic. And then the fitness business just sort of evolved, started about 6 or 7 years ago. And that business grew way more than I ever expected it to the point where it became larger than my magic business. And it's now like my main source of income. But of course, when things are better with the pandemic, I'm absolutely going to get back to performing magic professionally as a additional thing because I miss it. But yeah, that was a lot of rambling on my part, but
that's okay because it leads things right along to that, that fitness coaching thing that we've been talking about from the start.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
Did you notice what I said? Were you going to look at the package options? Did you see what I wrote there?
It was hard to miss that, see my package is on the top toolbar.
Yeah. I get emails once in a while like, "Was that intentional?" Like, of course that was intentional. What, you accidentally put that there?
So what gave you the idea to get into that? Because I'm assuming, 6-7 years ago when you started, this wasn't something that was as big, certainly, as it is now.
No, not at all. I started by participating in online forums and just like having discussions about fitness, and that's where I did most of that. And I'd start to get messages on the forums in my inbox, in my Fitness Pal, people just asking advice. And so I started a group on my Fitness Pal called Eat, Train, Progress. And it was a group that I ran with a good friend of mine. And what we did in that group was had people fill out a survey. If they were plateaued on weight loss, or their bench press was stuck, or they're just having an issue, they'd have this survey to fill out. Sarah and I she's the person I co-ran this group with, we would get on Skype and talk about their form and come up with a plan for them and reply. And so it was kind of a form of coaching. And so we did that for about a year. And that's when I thought, I would get better results if, instead of Sarah and I talking about this person's info, if I talk directly to the person. Sure. And so I came up with a pilot program and I gave it away for free for a year. And I just kind of made up how it would work. And I think I worked with 5 people for 12 weeks at a time. And then when I was done with those 5 people, I got 5 new people. And I did that for about a year just to get experience doing that. And then I started charging for it. And I was in a very fortunate position because this forum that we created, so My Fitness Pal is just a chat forum, but you can create your own group. So like if you wanted to create the Beer Frame and you have this group called the Beer Frame, you can put rules in the group and you can kick people out of the group or invite people to the group and put whatever info you want and start discussions. And so when we created this, we ended up with something like 10,000 members after about a year. And so I had a very large pool of people that I could work with. So I put an application out and said, "Here's this free coaching program. Here's what you agree to. If you would like to do this, fill out an application." And I was just fortunate that I got a lot of applicants. And so it put me in a position to pick and choose which demographics I want to work with to get the experience that I want. And so I would read all these applications. And then if I found someone that I wanted to work with, like, yes, this would be a good experience, I'm going to pick that person. And so that's how it started. And so I got a really good year of coaching people using that as a kind of a vehicle for it.
Wow. So eventually you end up creating this Facebook group, Eat, Train, Progress,
Yep.
which has grown to almost 19,000 members.
Yeah.
Were you in a situation where you had to say, okay, people in MyFitnessPal, we need to migrate over to this Facebook group, or did that happen organically?
A little of both. What happened was I thought that it would be wise for me to have multiple social media like presences on more than one platform. A, for business, but B, kind of for security in case something were to happen. And so it was at that time that I thought Facebook would be a good place to go. And so I created the group there. It originally started as a page, by the way. You can do pages and groups.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think pages are as good for person-to-person communication. I feel like groups are a better platform for that. And so, or format for that. And so the page that I created got to about 1,800 or so after I think maybe a couple years, year or two. And then I converted that to a group. And so it went in that order. I should have done a group right away, but I didn't know enough at the time. Mm-hmm. And so originally when I created the page, that's when I kind of started doing less and less MyFitnessPal. But I did say, hey, we created this Facebook page. Would love to see you over there. And probably got a couple hundred people from it, I think. So yeah, not bad.
Yeah. I remember, you chiming in when I said, hey, everybody, I'm going to make this public, Bowling with the Fef. And should it be a group or should it be a page? And I really valued, your input in that because I knew you had kind of the similar situation where, with this, okay, is this going to be a page or a group?
Right.
Yeah. It's definitely a different kind of thing where you incorporate a lot of your own personality into this.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of fun. And I would think that people have been really receptive to that if you've got this huge number of people in that group.
Yeah, I think so. I think that demonstrating your beliefs and your values in your brand, I think is valuable. I think that it runs the risk of attracting some people and repelling other people. But I also think that form of self-selection is not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. For example, if I have very core value differences with someone on important things, and if someone can't stand me, which is fine, I'm probably not going to be the right coach for them. And so it's fine for me if the way I conduct myself or my values doesn't align with someone. It's okay. It's how things can work, and it can work fine. So that's kind of my stance on that.
Sure. In the meantime, I feel like we're kind of going back and forth here, but getting back to the bowling part of things, buddy. You were doing better and better in CBAs, and you had a couple really good years. Do you remember a tournament in 2004, I believe it was, where you averaged 262 for 8 games? It was at Great River Bowl in Sartell, September of 2004.
I do. Did I lose to Chad Nelson in the finals?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I averaged that in match play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember that. I was throwing a original Inferno, and I had dirt on the gutter, and so I was just throwing as hard as I could right up the ditch. And I couldn't throw that hard. I topped out at 19 or so at best. And so, yeah, I had a big series in that one too. And then Chad just waxed me in the finals.
As he does a lot of people in both CBAs and otherwise.
I crapped the bed. I was going to cuss on your name. It's one of my favorite phrases.
245, 265, 243, 300, 278, 257, 258, 255. Wow.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah. Even on a shot where you have room to hit, you still got to carry.
Yeah. But throwing it up the ditch, I mean, it was a really conducive scoring environment. So, that was fun.
Yeah. and you had, some great years in CBA, and things are going good. And at some point, you decide, you know what? I'm done.
Yeah.
When was that, and what was that? What kind of precipitated that decision for you?
I think uh, the underlying situation was that I was no longer getting the positive reinforcement to make it worth the efforts I was putting in. That's at the core of it. And to elaborate on that, I started sucking really bad, and it got frustrating, and it no longer became an enjoyable experience. But I started sucking because I was no longer willing to put enough work in to be good at it. And the problem with that is that as much as you can accept that, like to understand that that's what the issue is, it doesn't make it any more enjoyable when you're not performing well. And so I really think that was the root of the problem. I was not willing to work hard enough to be as good at the sport as I thought I was, or if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. Like, and that's not coming from entitlement. It's not that I feel like I deserve to do better, but it's like I know how good I can be. Mm-hmm. And I'm not
proved it over and over again.
And I'm not being that good, and I'm not being anywhere near that good. Like, I was really bad. Like, I had some awful years too. Mm-hmm. And so it just got so frustrating that it just wasn't worth it to me anymore. So I quit.
Sure. We're only 43. I mean, we were born on the same day.
Yeah, buddy.
By coincidence.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the same date on the calendar. I'm talking about same day.
Yep.
At 43, there's still time left. Do you ever see yourself come back?
Yeah.
And what would it take?
It doesn't mean I think I'm going to come back, but I think about it. I probably think about the sport almost every day. Oh. And I've been doing that right when I quit. There was I probably went through a phase where I just didn't think of it at all. But in the past 2 years, I've been thinking about it a lot. I still don't think I'm going to come back, but I'm not ruling it out. Yeah. So when you say, could you see yourself coming back? Yeah, I could. Don't know what it would take. Part of me thinks it would take my kids getting into it, but I don't know if that would do it either, because I do know this. I'm not coming back to just bowl league once a week. If I'm coming back, I'm coming back, and I'm going to work at it, and I'm going to try to be good again. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it. And I don't know if I'll ever get to the point that I would make that decision.
Yeah.
But I'm not ruling it out, because there's still a part of me that like misses it dearly. I dream about it. Like, I have dreams maybe once a week that I'm throwing a bowling ball. I also have dreams that I'm dunking a basketball, which dude, I look at the rim now, and I'm in way better. I'm in the best shape of I'm not right now in the best shape of my life, but over the past, couple of years, I've hit peak physical condition in my 40s. Yeah. I look at the rim and I go, that's like a mile away. Like, I can't even touch the net. What? Like, I used to dunk, but I still have dreams about dunking, which is just the weirdest thing. So I don't know if this is like big midlife crisis thing, or if it's just that these were important things in my life back when I was growing up. But yeah. So yeah, I think about dunking and I think about bowling very, very frequently.
See, what you got to do is what I've got going on in the driveway, this adjustable thing where it gets down to about 6 or 8 feet, and then you can just, rock the
dunk
thing
right
like
up.
you're.
You ever just dunk on Carson? You ever just like kid gardening and dunk on? Then you just start talking smack. That's right, kid. You're daddy.
Probably more than I should,
Probably. Yeah. That's good fun.
You mentioned your kids. Have they gotten into it at all? Have they tried bowling before?
They tried it, but never really got into it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So you miss it.
I do.
I talked with Brent earlier in the week and asked him, what he thought of you both as kind of a colleague, a teammate, and as a competitor. And he talked about how you were pushing him to be better, as he, meaning you, had great work effort. I think he meant ethic and practice, and that you're still one of his favorite all-time persons. Does that mean a lot to you? I mean,
it does.
We talked to Marshall Holman last week, who did all kinds of stuff on the lanes, but ended up making great friendships off the lanes. And I would assume that this is a similar kind of thing where you guys compete to the nines while you're in MJBTs and things like that and CVAs, but off the lanes we're all cool.
Yeah, does mean a lot to me. Brent's a great dude. And so that coming from him, knowing how good he was, yeah, that must have been back in juniors when I actually worked at it.
Well, he said that, less than a week ago. So
how are you gonna have me following a guy like Marshall Holman? What the hell? Your numbers are gonna go in the tank. You probably had thousands last week, and now it's gonna be like, 6 people watched.
They're big shoes to fill,
Right?
and that was an amazing conversation. But it kind of leads to a question that I had for you was, Marshall and Dave Husted were guys that I looked up to, when I was younger, and tried to do some of the right things based on the things I saw them doing. Did you have pros and guys that were in the spotlight that you really kind of patterned your game after, or really admired?
Admired, yes. Patterned my game after. I don't think I was capable of it, but David Ozio.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always thought I thought his game was outstanding.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was really incredible.
First time I saw him on TV, I was just floored. I was like, what? Wow, is that amazing?
That's the kind of game that we all want, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
down to it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, Ozio by far. There was another dude that I thought had a really, really, really good physical game, and he was the one that I saw that got me bending more at the line and that super deep knee bend that I had in juniors, and that was a guy named Brian Berg.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember him. I think he only made one telecast, but he also won one of the regionals at Spectrum Lanes in Maple Grove. I think he won one of those.
Yeah.
And I remember watching him just going, wow, his physical game was just gorgeous.
Yeah. We actually talked about Brian Berg in one of our first episodes. I think it was the third one with Mike Holzeder, who operates a pro shop in Menominee, where Brian Berg was from.
Nice.
So, that's kind of cool that kind of comes full circle right now. So let's move on to the foundation frame, where we talk with, people who were, who are really the foundation of this as our viewers. Mark Wukeman says he was a guinea pig, and I can't think of exactly what he's referring to. Mark was a past guest. He's also one of the 36 or so people all time to have bowled a sanctioned 900. He's from
Holy
the
smokes!
Area.
I think you made a comment about having made mistakes on the show and had done several of these before having me on. I bet that's what that's a reference to. Did you have him on earlier?
I did.
He probably thinks that you were just ironing out the wrinkles on him.
Gearing up for the big one? No, but
Mark, that's not fair to you, man.
No,
you should come back on the show. Now that Andy has got his stuff together, you come back on the show and he'll do a better job.
Anytime. And, this is all a work in progress. I just hope we're getting better each and every week.
Yeah.
Herstein is watching. He said, so smooth. And
he's talking about my beard right now, son.
Yeah.
Look at this. Oh.
We're just gonna have to assume that because we don't have any context.
So Sean's uncle is Howie Herstein, right?
I think so.
So I bowled on a tournament team with him, and we were at a tournament in Alexandria once, and Howie was sitting on the stool, just leaning over, and he ripped ass against the stool, and it was super loud. And then he started laughing, and then as he was laughing, he started farting more. And I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you when I say this. He was sitting like this, and tears are just coming out of the guy's face. He's crying, and he can't stop farting and laughing. The best thing ever. So anyway, I hope you're listening to this, Sean, because Howie was an amazing dude.
Yeah.
He was just sitting there, and it was one of those hard. It was in Alexandria, the old Garden Center, and it was those hard AMF seats, and so it was loud as hell. He was just sitting there farting against the seat, crying.
Tough place to bowl too, so probably good that you guys had a light moment like that. Pardon the pun. Sean also said that Chris' mom ran the youth league at Texatonka. That's his connection and start of all this. Great family. Absolutely. Chris's mom was, she was good.
Elaine, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Minneapolis Hall of Famer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, she was great.
So, yeah. He also said great team and great times. Yeah, I, absolutely treasure those times in high school bowling with all those teams. And, competing Friday afternoons, getting together Friday evenings afterwards, and, just having great memories and making great long-term friendships out of it. I think that was the most important thing for me anyway.
Yeah, buddy.
Brent,
Dennis.
Of course, remembers Dennis.
Yep. I remember we used to have match games at Golden Valley.
Yes.
After hours.
Yep.
It's the best.
Where
so fun.
I think it was one of us started on lane 1, one starts on lane 10,
we did all kinds of stuff.
The high end, and you have to strike to advance a lane, spare to stay on the one you're at. But if you open, you're back to the start.
Back to the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. But it made us better bowlers, you know, to have that access. Utopian Baseball Universe, my boy Joe from Milwaukee, 2 Hall of Fame beards tonight. How do you like that? Hall of Fame.
I'm telling you. Yeah. I got the COVID beard going. This is short for me right now. I trimmed it like a week ago.
Oh, yeah?
It's getting to a point where you would expect that I might crawl into a dumpster after the show. It's bad. It was like, it was.
But that takes talent. Not everybody can grow a beard like that.
I push really hard.
Yeah. Brent also says, seeing you guys brings back so many great memories. And yeah.
Like the sausage?
Like this, you're going to have to explain.
You want me to tell that story?
Yes, because...
Oh, my goodness. You're just going to ruin your show.
Again, right. Brent and I are texting, and he thought it was you that grabbed it.
No, Brent.
So time to set the record straight.
Okay, so there was this Italian restaurant near Golden Valley Lanes, and every Friday or Saturday night when it was Brent and you, Andy, and me working, you know, we would often order food from somewhere. Where it was like, I think we did like Louis Chow Mein sometimes, and but we decided to get Italian, and one of us ordered mastacholi with Italian sausage. I don't remember who ordered it. It was either you or Brent. One of you had a salad, and one of you had mastacholi with Italian sausage. I think it was you, Andy. I think you ordered it. And you were digging in there, and you were like, they didn't give me any sausage. And we all looked in and couldn't see any sausage. And then you did your kind of, you do this, you go, ugh. You kind of went, ugh. And then you pulled out this, and it was just this one big sausage.
Yeah. And
it was kind of grayish brown. And it kind of looked like a turd. And so... And the whole, like, I remember when you pulled the sausage out, first of all, we were dying laughing. And I think we spent the next, I don't know how long, at least an hour, coming up with funny things to do with this sausage, like go stick it in someone's beer, you know, someone who's bowling league. And that night, Nick Rowers came to bowl with us after closing.
Yeah.
And I don't remember who put it in the toilet, but one of us just put the sausage in the toilet. And at some point we called Nick, like, Nick, you got to see this. It's kind of gross, but come in here. And I remember Nick walked in and looked into the toilet, and he goes, dude, that's nasty. And Brent and I were both standing right at the toilet, and Brent and what's funny is that he screamed when he did this, going, ah! And he just lunged his hand into the toilet and grabbed the sausage. But then the best part is that he squished it. He went like this and just squished it, and sausage was like busting out of his fingers, and he like went up to Nick's face and did that, and Nick just took off running. And that was it. And that was the sausage. And that's one of my better memories of that place. And yes, Brent, it was you who shoved your hand into the toilet, but it was a sausage. It wasn't actually a turd, but
I can confirm that. That was definitely him that grabbed it out of the toilet.
Yeah, the screen was the seller right there. They sold it.
Yeah, Golden Valley Lanes isn't a bowling center anymore. They must have taken it down years ago. But man, what great memories out of that place.
Funny story about that. When it was several years after it no longer being a bowling alley, there was a short period of time where it was a Halloween retail store that was only open for about a month. And I don't know how many years after, but I was probably in my late 20s, maybe. And memory's a little foggy here, but I randomly went in there because I thought it'd just be kind of good to go into that building. It's been so many years. And I kid you not, Walt Lathrop walked into the door.
Oh my gosh.
Dead serious. It was the previous manager, our manager from then. Like, what are the odds that on the one day I decide to go in there, freaking Walt shows up? It was the trippiest thing ever. Like,
wow,
really weird.
Yeah, strange coincidence, I guess, unless he was hanging out there, you know.
I don't know.
So there's one more question. This
Yeah,
one,
but
this one actually came in before the show.
okay.
How was the, how was the rhyme run?
Oh, that's from the tip of my tongue. Who in the hell? Is that you, Andy? Did you come up with that? You had to have. Yeah, it's amazing.
I don't have Twista in my phone contacts.
I wouldn't think so.
No,
I
but
wouldn't. That's amazing.
I just thought that would be funny because for years I thought he was saying wine, not rhyme.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I don't think wine would make much sense.
no, it didn't. So let me get the. Ugh, I'm laughing, and crying here.
Off the sheet.
Off the sheet. So how we go off the sheet is we ask you to challenge somebody who you think would make a great interview on Bowling with the Fef, and then sometime after we go off the air here, I, clip this up and put it on the Facebook page, tag them, call them out, say, hey, we think you would, make a good guest on a future episode. So, Pat Umphrey, who would you like to challenge to be on Bowling with the Fef?
Dune Sir.
Yeah.
He was our ball driller back in the day.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, he was a good dude. Still is a good dude.
Yeah, he would be great. I remember those afternoons, going to the pro shop for something or other. He'd have the PBA tour on video up in the corner. He must have had a videotape of like every telecast and a different one every time. But yeah, he was one of the first guys who drilled equipment for me, and man, was he good.
He was one of the first guys that we saw rev the crap out of the ball
Yes,
like that. Dude could turn it.
Yeah, like no other.
Yes,
I mean,
he would hammer on it.
yeah, you have to wonder if they had something like Specto or something back in those days where you can see the RPM
Oh, gotcha.
figure.
I'm sure what that was at first.
Yeah, that would be off the chart. But yeah, Dune is the goods. And Dune, if you are watching, please message me on Facebook or email me at bowlingwiththefef@yahoo.com. If you're interested and willing, I know Pat would appreciate it. I would appreciate it. We would love to have you on Bowling with the Fef and talk about your bowling story. Pat, it has been awesome. Thanks you
for
so
having
much.
me, dude.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your bowling story, continued success in the fitness coaching, and if people are interested in finding out more about the fitness coaching, what do they do?
You could go to my website, which is eattrainprogress.com, all one word. You could just go to my Facebook group, which is Eat Train Progress.
Awesome.
Or you could just message me on Facebook.
Yeah.
I do a lot of business on there, and so I'm constantly on there trolling people and arguing and, typical antics. And so you can always just send me a message.
Sure. And if you don't remember that stuff, shoot me a message. I'll get you connected. We'll we'll get you over to Pat, and like I said, good dude. Lots of jokes, but but great stuff too. Pat, thanks again for being on. Really appreciate it. And lots of fun. Good laughs. Oh boy. That was fun. Thanks again for joining us, everyone. Bowling with the Fef here on live on the YouTube channel. We'll be back next week with a new episode. Until then, be just and fear not. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.